I'm so glad you made it home.
Because I just sold you on this website I built with GoDaddy. Ship them out.
A certain website developer has learned a mighty lesson. Think about this. Marketing people already knew this. Do not use puppies in a commercial that even thinks about lauding the efforts of mail-order puppy mills. And Mitt Romney's a man who has already learned a lot of lessons and doesn't really need to gather any more. He's put them to use. Let's get to it all. Brand this segment, if you will. He's the president of M Network Branding and Strategy, our go-to guy in the huddle on branding and marketing. Thomas Mozloom joins us here in the studio. Good to see you again, Tom.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to
talk.
It's a big week. It's a big week. Yeah, something's happening, a game and something in politics and something.
Yeah,
you know.
Was there?
Was it's a good way to look at it. All right, look, we'll get to the dog in a moment here. Let's talk about the big news today, and that is Mitt Romney has said he will not run for president in 2016.
Right.
Before he made this announcement, was his brand as a two-time loser, let's be honest now, was he going to be able to overcome that and be a real contender?
Well, it depends on where you're talking about. If you're talking about public perception and votes, yeah, you could always rebrand, you could always reset. But among the donors, there just simply isn't enough room for another moderate conservative in this race. You've got an establishment guy in Jeb Bush who's taken the lead and been out and collecting lots of money. You have Chris Christie, who's an establishment guy and a moderate who has all of the money in the world because he's the one who's been raising it all. You've got Lindsey Graham, who's been poking around in this thing, who's a moderate and an establishment guy. That particular box is already checked. There's just not enough money on the table for donors to give to that campaign. I think what happened is that Mitt went out and talked to his donors, and his donors said, we can't commit to you, man.
Was he almost a little bit, though, chaotic in trying to rebrand because he was this, he was for this, he's against it? He came out on so many issues and basically seemed to soften on things that people, I think, started to see him as, all you're going to do is make us hear what you want us to hear.
Yeah, I had used the term earlier last year that it was a plasticine gas bag, and that's exactly what he came across as. He comes across as the kind of guy who will say and do anything to get elected. And while that works somewhat in some cases, I think that trick is over. I don't think you could do that anymore, especially him. He's done with that gag. He's going to have to stand for something. He'll be much better as a kingmaker and a money raiser and somebody's hatchet man in the corner, probably Chris Christie's, than the frontman candidate.
Well, you brought up Christie now a couple of moments here. He's going to have dinner with Christie tonight, but again, I think he's probably going to start having dinner with everybody here at this point in his role as a kingmaker. So is Christie the guy now who has the best brand sitting out there? Is it somebody else? Who's got the brand right now, Republicans like?
Chris Christie's brand was certainly very strong at one point and waned after Bridgegate. He's still got a bunch of people who really like him. Scott Walker is the niche brand for the people that know who he is out in Wisconsin. He stuck up for the unions. He did a great job there. But I think Jeb Bush is going to be hard to get around. He's been out there. He's been out front. He's got some tarnish because of that last name. But it's nothing that he can't get around. And I think the money right now is split between Bush and Christie.
All right, now let's go back to branding here again of all these different candidates. Because it would seem if you look at it just on the surface, here's Walker, very proper, good guy, a little bit of a yuppie kind of guy here, has a pretty good reputation. Christie, bellicose, likes to go ahead and spit it out there. I haven't heard that word in years, but it works for him. He just doesn't care. Which one of these brands is the brand that America is most likely to go for at this point? Because are we at the stage right now where everybody who's really left in the Republican race that's a big name, they're stuck with a brand right now. People have already branded them, and it's going to be tough to change without being called a flip-flopper.
Yeah, they're all filling their slots. So you've got the Marco Rubios on the far-right Tea Party side. You've got the Walkers just to the left of them, and as you hedge closer, you've got a Christie, then you've got a Jeb, and then all the way to the inside left is a Lindsey Graham. They're all sort of picking out their places in this. But as far as branding goes, it's going to be up to the donor money and the messaging, how quick they could get out and start not just defining their own brand, but defining everybody else. And remember, the Republican primaries and the Democratic primaries, these are the most rabid voters that they're trying to get. They're not worried about Joe Schmo America. This is primary voters, politicos, people who are into it. So that's who they're going to court first.
How dangerous, though, is it to get a brand out there? This is the end of January. We still have over a year and a half to get there. So you're going to talk about guys that will have to carry a brand for over a year and a half. Doesn't that get dangerous, though, when you push it out forward and then everybody knows and then the attacks start to come in and you can't change? It seems like you'd be better off with a shorter span of time.
Not if you're running against Hillary, because her brand has been out there forever. So she's easily defined. We know who she is. We could run her tomorrow. You could run the Hillary Clinton campaign tomorrow. It's not going to change. So if you're a candidate on the Republican side, you want to get your brand out first, get it out big, make sure everybody knows who you are. Jeb is going to need the time because he's going to need the separation from Big Brother and Daddy.
Now, that's a big point. How does he, we both know this, no matter how many of the strategists say this, that the Bush name will not hurt. Let's be real honest here. In many ways, it is going to hurt him. So how does he then continue his brand? Don't be seen as someone who's just looking to change for the sake of getting elected and not be seen riding on Daddy's and Brother's coattails.
It's an interesting conundrum, right? But if it were me advising, I would tell him never even bring it up. Don't even mention it.
But people will bring it up, though, around him.
Laugh it off, brush it off. And be demonstrably different in what you say and the policies you put forward. Be demonstrably different than that. He's carving out a very nice space as a guy who could work across aisles, who's a moderate, who's somebody who can get a lot of people on board. He has a common sense approach. He's really trying to be the adult in the room. That alone, that brand alone, is different than his brother, right? And so if he gets that out, it's by action that he's going to differentiate himself. It's not going to be by saying it. If he says it, he's dead.
We've walked past a lot of names here that we haven't even touched on. There's Cruz, there's Perry,
Rick Perry,
there's Rubio. We've had some people that earlier in the show said that Marco Rubio may be the one to best benefit from this because Romney took a little bit of a jab at Jeb Bush on his way out, saying the Republican Party needs a fresh face, and Jeb Bush is in his early 60s, so he's not exactly that fresh face. They think that Rubio might be the guy to do it, but he's already got some marks against him.
I thought Mitt Romney was talking about Ben Carson.
Really?
I really did. I really thought he was
That's interesting.
name-calling Ben Carson. But, I mean, maybe it was a dog whistle, maybe it's just me. I might have read him entirely wrong.
But is Rubio a guy that you think, I got about 30 seconds, is he a guy who can benefit?
Rubio's a guy who's going to benefit strongly, especially since right now he's alone out there on the far-right conservative side. That's a happy place. He's just inside of Rand Paul, who comes across as a nut job to some people. So you've got Rubio. He's a fresh face. He's new. People are going to like him.
I'm going to ask you to stick around because we spent so much time on politics. I'm going to hold you. You can stay?
Sure.
I'm going to hold you through the break because we didn't get to the story of the week, which is one commercial and one puppy.
Okay.
By the way, we can still see Democrats right now going, darn, I wish Mitt would have stayed in the race.
Right.
You can see that.
Absolutely.
All right, speaking of branding, a certain fast food giant, they're trying to make people believe they really care about happiness, but then there's the puppy. It's coming up next right here on MidPoint. Welcome back, everybody. Once again, let us welcome back the president of M Network Branding and Strategy, Thom Mozloom, joins us here in the studio. We went over political branding now. Let's get over the big story of the week here. We have the commercial. We need, by the way, guys, I'm just checking. We do have the whole commercial. I just wanted to, we do. Okay, if you haven't seen it, just in case, here it is. This is the GoDaddy commercial. Go ahead. Oh, we don't have any audio on it. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Okay.
I think they get what's going on here.
Well,
though.
we get what goes on here, but this is, it's the dog gets loose, the dog comes back, he runs to his owners, and they say, gee, nice to have you back, because we just sold you on our website made by GoDaddy. Now let's go ahead and ship you out. I got to be honest, I'm a dog guy. And when I first saw this commercial, I caught the whole puppy mill thing, sending it out to pet stores. I was offended by this. I hated it. And everybody I asked hated it too. But gee, what a great marketing move by GoDaddy.
Gotcha.
They got me.
Gotcha. In fact, I would imagine that they had people that feigned offense first, just to gin up the rest of you.
My goodness, you mean a plant?
In my business, we like to call it a shill, but okay.
Shill's good. I like that. That's much easier. It's very New York of you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that this was a plant. I mean, I think that this was phony outrage that ginned up a lot of other people. This was always designed. Think about the commercials that GoDaddy has run shamelessly in the past.
Well, a lot of them have been based on sex.
Right.
Strictly sex and Danica Patrick and everything else. Okay.
Even before that, the rub on them was that they were tasteless. Before, like Danica Patrick naked was a step up in advertising for them. So this...
So they haven't gone to Carl's Jr. level, but that's another story altogether.
Right, good analogy.
go.
That's perfect. So what we have here is, I think we have a spot that they always intended to pull. They were going to get all this media attention. People are going to talk about them, and now they'll run the real ad in the Super Bowl. Remember, these ads are vetted by the network and by the NFL weeks ahead of time. You don't just pull it. And they cost, what, $4.5 million for 30 seconds?
Commercial wasn't cheap to produce.
And several $100,000 to produce? No, the real ad is going to be in the Super Bowl and always has been there.
Everybody is trying to get to the Budweiser level of ad because still the Budweiser, the Dogs, the Clydesdales are doing another one this year. I mean, this is the fun stuff. This is, as somebody said, when you see the new Budweiser ad, if you don't see it and go, "Aw."
Well, this ad, there's the pup. It looks just like the dog, doesn't it? There he is.
And in this ad, it's the same thing.
It's the same
dogs.
thing.
But Budweiser's got it. I mean, they get it, and they probably sell a lot of beer here. I can't see GoDaddy getting anybody actually going to their website now, trying to use them. Now, I can see people running from them because of this.
It all depends on what they run for the real spot in the commercial. If they run Danica Patrick naked again, we'll see. I don't know.
Or maybe if they come up with a commercial that runs maybe the dog being sent to Danica Patrick.
Right. We should have a matrix. We should have some sort of a metric involved that says what sells more, sex or puppies? What's your bet?
Next subject, as we move on.
Good dodge. Way to get out of that.
That's quite all right.
That's smooth.
That's why I've lived this long. That's why I stay in the business this long. 1 minute left here. Something else on branding. The McDonald's commercial that they're on. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. Tell me exactly what you said about this commercial when I asked you in the break.
Okay, when you brought it up and we were talking in the break, I just looked at you and said, it's just mind-numbing to me. It is totally mind-numbing. I can't even watch it. I don't know where that came from. I don't know whose great idea it was. I'm sure there was some research that got done, some public opinion research poll that said, you know, what people really want is to feel better about themselves when they come here. So here you go.
But notice they're not focusing on what? The food.
On how awful the food is. But the commercial itself, if you're around that many happy people, don't you want to just stick a finger in their eye?
You're not getting sponsored by McDonald's anytime soon, are you, Tom?
I guess that. So much for that account. Oh.
But they're not focusing on the food. They focus on making people feel good, which
Yes.
is, in a way, a much better way to sell things.
Well,
You can
we
get away
always
with it.
say whatever the product is, that's not what you're selling. You're selling the experience. You're selling a feeling. That's what branding is. It is the feeling, the emotional connection that people have to a product or a service or a politician. It's not the actual product, service, or politician. It's the emotional connection. And ads like this and ads like the Budweiser ad with the dog are designed to ramp that up.
Okay, very quickly, I only got a few seconds. Who do you like Sunday?
Well, of the two teams,
Pick one, Tom. You only get two.
if a meteor hits the stadium, I won't be disappointed.
Wow. Pick a team.
Seattle.
Tom won't be joining us anymore on the show, as a matter of fact. I'm afraid that he is no longer going to be a guest here. Good seeing you again, man.
See ya.
Thanks so much.
All right.
All right, join me at the water cooler on the other side of the break. A cup of Mitt, a dash of Super Bowl is certain to be served, and a lot more when we continue.